Before I begin, John Beaver from PureClean asked me if I could work the name of his business into my speech. I can't, John, where are you sitting, over there? I can't work your name into the speech, but if you gave something away, damn it, they mentioned you on your own. I had enough trouble working Tony's Pizza in, and that's at the very end, long after Ward cuts me off. I don't have an opponent this year, so I've been given some ministerial work, and believe it or not, I have to give you about an hour's worth of information in about 5 or 6 minutes, I hope. So here, I'm going to read it, because if I don't read it, we'll be here all day, and these folks will get a chance to beg you for their votes. So, I'm going to talk about districts, the districts in Ulster County. This November, voters in Ulster County will be asked to elect 1 member to the United States House of Representatives, 1 of 4 members to the Assembly, 1 of 4 members to the New York State Senate. Which of those 4 you choose will depend on where you live. And by the way, before reapportionment, Ulster County was divided into 4 Assembly districts and 2 State Senate districts. Across New York State, an average upstate Assembly district went from about 128,000 people to 135,000 people over the last 10 years. An average Senate district, on the other hand, went from 300,000 down to 293,000. So even though the population of New York State increased about 2.1%, you may notice that the size of state Senate districts became smaller. That happened because, as did happen in 2002, an additional seat was added to the Senate, a 63rd seat this year. The Assembly is fixed at 150 members by the state constitution. The Senate is not fixed by the Constitution. And even under the famous one-person, one-vote law, neither the federal government law, none of the federal laws, excuse me, or any state laws require districts to be equal across the state for state offices. It is a requirement for the United States House of Representatives, however, so rest assured that no matter what congressional district you go in New York State today, there will be exactly 717,707 people in that district. And if you notice there's more, let me know. We'll go bring it to federal court right away. How are the districts drawn? Well, you should know that this year that the congressional districts were drawn by the courts. Those lines were submitted to the legislature for a ratification, but the Assembly and the Senate did not draw those lines. A judge did. Assembly lines were drawn, Assembly and Senate lines were drawn by members of the Assembly and the Senate from each party and their designated staffs. Proposed lines were announced, hearings were held across the state, and the lines were voted on and sent to the governor, where he signed them and became law. I want to mention a couple of quick facts that you should know. I already mentioned that we added a new Senate district. Another change was that inmates in our state correctional institutions were counted from the communities they came from instead of where they were incarcerated. So each of these developments had a unique impact on Ulster County, more than the rest of the state. First, the new Senate district was created by carving out pieces of 3 or 4 existing districts, including a significant part of Ulster County that now comprises 30% of that new district. It extends from Esopus to Amsterdam, New York. We're not that bad yet. The changes in the way inmates were counted also disproportionately impacted us because we have several prisons in Ulster County. So for redistricting purposes, the prison change reduced our population. Another noteworthy fact is that all but 8 members of the Senate, 54 members of the Senate, and a very large bipartisan majority in the Assembly, 85, took a pledge to do things differently this year. They signed on with Ed Koch and his group, New York Uprising, promising to create an independent redistricting panel to end the gross gerrymandering that's occurred in Albany. I should note that while I have been and continue to be a sponsor, I didn't sign Ed's petition, Ed's pledge, because I don't like him, and I also don't sign pledges. Many other people did, however. Governor Cuomo was one of the people who voiced his strong support, his complete support for the measure, and he pledged that if he was elected, he would veto any plan that was not the product of an independent panel. So there was one other person out of the 50 or so who didn't sign the pledge, and that was the Speaker of the Assembly. And a month after the session reconvened, with 85 people having signed the pledge in the Assembly and 54 in the Senate, the Speaker, one of the non-signers, offered a bill that matched up with Ed Koch's pledge. I immediately signed on as a co-sponsor. The Senate leadership had the same bill. They offered it into their House without sponsorship, and using a specific parliamentary trick prohibited anybody from co-sponsoring it. Nothing ever happened with that bill, actually, in either house. A year later, nothing was resolved, and in the end, the reapportionment was done using the same old process of self-districting. The governor backed off of his threat to veto, and the new laws became lines, the lines that we live with today. And you can judge for yourself whether the public interest was served by that process that produced these lines. In one medium-sized county, this one, about 182,000 people, we have 4 assembly districts and 4 Senate districts. Both houses of the legislature, however, did pass a constitutional amendment that will mandate an independent redistricting commission for the next census. Now that's a hope, but it's only a hope. Before the constitutional amendment can become law, it has to pass another round of sessions in the Assembly and the Senate, and then be put before the voters. So the earliest this could occur, the earliest this could become a constitutional change is 2013. The latest is November of 2014. And if it passes, it will become effective for 2020, in which case I'll be out there, not up here. I didn't support the reapportionment scheme this year, not only because the process stunk to high heavens, and here comes the plug, because the result was to slice up Ulster County like a Tony's Pizza. So the new district on Broadway in Kingston, it's delicious. It's the traditional recipe. The new 101st goes from Oneida County up near Utica to the town of Montgomery in Orange County. The 102nd starts out in Otsego and ends up in Columbia County, picking up sororities along the way. 104, Frank Scartatos, has 3 river towns and 2 towns in Ulster, Marlborough and Lloyd. And the new district that I'm in, the 103rd, looks very similar to the old one, but Warsing is out, Red Hook and town of Rochester are in. The Senate is far worse. The 39th, currently represented by Bill Larkin, will no longer include Kingston or Esopus. The 42nd, represented currently by John Bonasek, believe it or not, will no longer include Bel Air, Woodstock, Ulster, or Hurley. Rosendale and Marbletown will be in a different Senate district too, but New Paltz and 5 other Ulster towns will still be in the 42nd. The 51st district, this is very interesting to me, I want to see how this plays out, is currently represented by Jim Seward, who was often on the side of Hunter and Windham against Bel Air. His district will no longer include Hunter and Windham, however, it will include Bel Air. The brand new Senate district, the 46th district, goes from Amsterdam, New York, to Esopus. 7 towns in the city of Kingston will be in that district, joining our friends, people that we think about every single day when we think about our community, like Canajoharie, Rotterdam, Coymans, Gilderland, Cracksville, Catskill, and yes, Hunter and Windham. So, if your head's not spinning, we brought maps. Ward's going to put them on a table someplace if you want to come and see where you vote, who you vote for, and who represents you, and who are the people that you share a district with. And with that, good luck, guys.